first, I think I have one of those. The first item on the agenda is introductions and welcome to committee members. So if we want to start with Chief Kuchar.
Ryan Kuchar, Chief of Police.
Seth Knight, Fire Chief in the town of Rutland, and I'm a lifelong Hubbardson resident.
Mike Stahl, Public at Large Rep.
Carrie Sacramone, same.
Mike Foley, same.
Bob Hayes, Fire Chief.
Nathan Boudreau, call me Nate, I'm the town administrator. I am speaking right now just because I feel like I should, but I do know that I am not the most knowledgeable on this topic. So I want to make sure that today we have a conversation of what happened in the past, what we'd like to see in the future. As you heard me say to the person recording the meeting, I do not think this committee is going to solve all the world's problems here this evening, but hopefully we can get kind of a idea of what the road and goals may look like over the next 2 or 3 meetings, and then be able to chip away at that. I know there is sort of a negative connotation with seeking the public safety building just because it has been shot down several times in the past for various reasons in various different ways. I am compensated to be optimistic, so therefore I wanted to bring this up, brought it to the select board, got the board approved. So if we're not trying, what are we doing? So I will open up the election of chair. I will open it in a free conversation, because just in case anybody wants to ask any questions or talk to each other about who might want to be the chair. Go.
I don't have the time to be the chair.
All right.
Mike Stahl, 5 Lombard Road. Sometimes when these situations come up, you look for a subject matter expert. It's good if there's a subject matter expert available, but they may drive things too much. It might be better to have someone that is more of a generalist, or don't have their either ego, either professionally or otherwise, really attached to it. That's just one way of looking at it. I've seen it work many different ways.
I mean, I have time right now. I am pretty good about staying open. I'm not saying that I want to be, I'm just saying I can probably manage it at this point.
And for the good of the order, it has to be one of you 4 or Heather Monroe, because we're
Right, yes,
employees.
right.
Yeah.
Heather loves doing stuff like this.
Yes, the town administrator of Paxton, who's on our select board and has a 1-year-old,
Yes.
is volunteering for more chairpersonships.
That is Heather.
I do have a comment about that, just jump right back in. Heather has a lot of good qualities, but she was already on the ARPA committee,
Yeah.
which required quite a bit of effort over the last year. And, you know, the select board will automatically get a
Yeah.
good cut at this thing overall. And so that may be, when I say too much of a burden, a bit of an ask. You know, I would recommend
Speaking
a
of-
select board member, you know.
Speaking out of turn, I would probably say that Heather would gleefully let someone else do it.
Yes,
Like,
concur.
So we've heard from generalist, subject matter expert.
I don't know about that, but in the absence of anyone volunteering, unless you would like to do it.
I honestly think I would be nice to have somebody who is an expert, probably leading the way a little bit. I for me, I don't know.
Yeah, my only worry about that, and don't take this wrong, but it's the emotion tied with this
Mhm.
topic.
I agree. Yep.
To then turn around and say, someone in the fire department was leading that? Well, obviously, this is, I mean, they
That-
just.
Yeah,
Yep.
yeah.
That was my unstated comment
Sure.
earlier, but it could be, you know, any of us, because we don't really know everybody's
Yeah.
background per se. So,
Yeah, I mean, regardless that any of us could say, no, we're not doing this, that, or the other thing, that's how it will be perceived as.
So, Mike, your background is in engineering, correct?
yes,
So that may be an appropriate
Mhm.
background to have at this stage, because right now whoever is the chair would be surrounded by by people that have experience in the
Yep.
subject matter. And have you ever talked to a policeman or a firefighter before? They'll tell you all about what they like, what they need and what they don't like. So we will have plenty of subject matter.
Yeah, I've been in that fire station, I know what they don't like.
well, I'll share a little bit more of my background. I happen to be a civil engineer, I happen to have been a facilities engineer, managed large military complexes, managed all the design, construction contracts, managed the space planning, oftentimes with a good staff under me. But I would not recommend me for the reason that I am quite the subject matter expert in this whole process, basically from cradle to grave, commissioning a new facility, you know, I'm not an expert in any specific area.
On the
of
other
whole
hand, I think
process.
you're probably the best candidate,
Yeah.
because you're not in the fire department, you're not in the police department, so we don't have to worry about that. And we can turn around and say, we had a subject matter expert
Facilities.
facilitating all of this.
I am on the committee, as we all are.
Yeah.
I will say that time is an issue, and when I commit to something, I commit to it. I will be very aggressive in my support of whoever the chairman and anybody on the board, but I don't believe, I think at this point, not only I really support you, because you are the least connected with the situation, and you can act totally as a chairperson and not let us, you know, do the backroom arm wrestling or whatever it is, to work out some of the things. I will definitely give my heart and soul to that aspect. But being the chair at this point just doesn't seem quite feasible. If absolutely nobody else steps forward, yes.
With all that said, is there a motion on the table to elect someone as chair?
I've already forgot your name.
Carrie.
Carrie. I'd like to make a motion to nominate Carrie for Chair of the Public Safety Building Committee.
Second it.
Nice.
There's been a motion and a second to nominate Carrie as the chair of the Public Safety Building Committee. Are there any other motions? Are there any other motions?
No?
With that, we will close nominations. All members who are in favor of Carrie Sacramone being the chair for the first year of the Public Safety Building Committee, we will revisit this in 1 year's time. Please say aye.
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 All right, Madam Chair, congratulations.
All right,
Now it's your meeting.
here we go, all right. Alright, so we should move on to the different plans everybody has, probably, because that's the next thing on our agenda. It looks like everybody brought some things with them, to go over.
Chief, could you give like you've been here
Background.
some time. Can you go back as far as you can remember and kind of just hit the relevant marks?
Well, you see, I have letters in here from, I think, 88 to 89, early 90s, various committees, letters from the fire chief, Roger Knipe at the time, about public safety complex, that it was a need, and that has just progressed as the years have gone on. You see, it was 2000, we moved up to Breezy Hill Plaza, we lease that building now. For us, it's tough because it delays our response, because if we got a fire call, we gotta go down to the other station. The other station that's down in the center of town was built in. It's
61 to 65.
yeah, I think it's narrowed it down to either 60, 61.
Yeah.
And that was made via donations. They had fundraising dances, the letters that used to be on the front of the station, they sold those. And then the guys actually built that station, as far as I know. So the town's never purchased a fire station. So that building was designed for vehicles that weren't even half the size of what we have now. And we've been pursuing different options ever since. There was the pallet company, I forgot actually about that. I don't forget what time frame that
It's like
was.
97, 98.
Yeah. And
What, someone
then-
suggested we build one out of pallets?
We had
No,
an
it's-
option to purchase.
Let's not, let's not put that in the
Yes,
notes.
to purchase the property and turn it into a fire station. Then there was probably 08, 09, on 68, just before the rec field, that barn. They wanted to throw us in there, and that fell through. We've looked at the Jan's Auto a couple of years ago, and I believe the select board at this time doesn't want to pursue that, just because the nature of it. It's, you don't know if he could sell like that, and then doing feasibility studies, and I believe Bill Murray, his assessment at that time was you were talking about putting maybe $1.5 to $2.5 million just in that building to make it feasible.
You
So
put almost as much into that building as it would cost to build one straight up, I suspect.
I don't know about that now, but
Not almost, but a
Yeah.
considerable
Yeah,
amount.
yeah.
But you're all in there. You're putting it into a building that's almost 20 years old.
Mm.
So it's. I don't think.
Don't even know
that's-
if it would meet
I think
current standards and
it
codes.
wouldn't, and that's why you need those upgrades. And sometimes you get into those projects and it ends up costing you more at the end because there's unforeseen problems and stuff like that.
The select board, the meeting before authorizing the creation of this committee, did vote an executive session, which the minutes will be available soon, to not proceed with the Gardner Road option and to
Yep.
create this committee to move forward with the main objective being to get a public safety building that is new created. There is $50,000 or $60,000 of ARPA money for quote unquote feasibility study. So once that's a couple meetings from now, once everybody is more accustomed with the documentation, we can figure out what to do with that, and I will get a exact number. I brought the plans right here from when my predecessor brought this forward to town meeting in 2019. So everyone can take a look at that.
So there was one study from a need study in 2012, and then again in 2019 with some designs. And was that the second time? I lose track.
Yeah, this was the
It
second
time.
time.
It actually made it to the town floor.
in the first time was the whole senior
Yeah.
Yes.
battle.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Yep.
What, the senior battle?
About
Senior center.
Yeah. The property up on, across from the pallet shop that was designated for a public safety building was also designated for a senior center, so.
Was originally designated for a senior center.
Yeah, 'cause they
They got
acquired the money.
$500,000 check from Senator Brewer,
Hmm.
and the senior center went down in flames.
Mhm.
So then they tried a public safety building, that went down in flames.
Oh, with the town,
Oh, yeah.
okay.
There's room on that property, there
For
would be
both.
room on that property.
Mhm.
for
And
both.
I forget, but the public safety building didn't go down in flames, I don't think. It
No,
was
it was
only
close.
like 77 votes off for passing, so it's not
But
that.
there was an undercurrent of
Yes.
a number of people saying that it's a station mahal, that they're picking the most expensive, and when in fact it was as bare bones as you could legally get away
Yeah,
with.
they even cut a bay off of it.
Yeah.
Right.
And so, in conversations outside of this, I did have a conversation with the senior center director. They are going to be putting out an RFP, they meaning me, next week to build this.
The deck.
So it has been stated as plain as day to the seniors that if they build this, they're here.
Yeah.
So I don't see the seniors or a new senior center becoming an issue again, because a lot of them are claiming that they're tired with the fight, and this deck will be enough. So hopefully that will appease many of the seniors that had a issue with the public safety building a decade ago. But
Until the next generation.
people are getting older.
Yep.
Establishing milestones for the project.
Could,
Can-
before we go,
Yeah.
I have a couple of observations, Madam
Yeah, I have a
Chair.
couple of things I wanted to, okay.
Well, you can state yours first.
I think it's great to go through all this. I think the issue, bottom line we're gonna have is getting everybody to be able to buy into all of this.
Mhm.
And so it's almost, we almost have to start where, okay, what are we gonna do to get the people in the town to feel confident, to feel, because otherwise all of this is pretty moot. It's because we've just seen it over and over and over and over and over again.
Yeah.
So it's, for whatever reason, this is this form of contention for everybody, and I don't understand why, but but that's just something that I feel like is, we can go through all of this, but I do think we probably have to discuss what some of the issues have been and where we need to kind of pull together to get this to really fly.
Yeah.
Yeah, regardless of what's in the plans, we need to have a ground game.
Absolutely.
Mhm.
Uh-huh.
Right, we need to have a lot of questions pre-answered, not that they're gonna read them, but we'll have them and we all speak the same language. But we have to have a ground game. I would rather push for what you need, not for what you will settle for,
Right.
right? Because if we get it through, holy shit, we've got it, it ain't gonna happen again for a long, long
Mhm,
time. And if you get something that's not gonna meet your future needs, we're just back to square one in 50 years.
Yeah, and that was a little bit of the problem last time we went through this. I'll say it, but it was one of the things where we wanted to have room on the apparatus floor for expansion. I used the dirty word ladder truck, and that really got people
Oh,
upset.
God, yeah.
And I was like, all right, let me back that up. maybe you won't, like, oh, they're like, the community's not gonna grow, you never, okay, whatever. But they have some flexibility, like, they were building this from day one, it's like, yeah, it might meet your needs, but in 5 years, it's gonna be, it's obsolete. You already don't have enough space, like, there's one, I don't know if it's that one, does that have 4 bays? So
Yeah.
I have a version here that they actually cut the bay off, so it's 3 bays. It's, it fits everything we have now, but well, not even, it doesn't include the pickups inside. So you don't have a lot of flexibility, and like you said, this building will be 30 years old, and if you wanted to add a bay to it, they're gonna be like, no, we just built half for you. That's what
Or
it's gonna
it won't
be
meet,
like.
won't meet the new code, you're gonna have to redo everything
Yeah.
inside, or whatever the
So,
case might be.
that was the issue that we had last time, was they were, I thought, trying to develop for what your needs were now, and there wasn't a lot of like looking into the future, and I know you don't wanna get too crazy with that, cause then the price tag, starts to grow, but they should have something in mind for the future. Cause like, once we build it, this is Hubbardston, it's gotta be a 100-year building, even if it's not.
Now, do you think that the building in 2019 was conceived as too flashy?
I don't think so, but I think it was, they were trying to shave things off where they could, and it started to get to the detriment of the plan. I forget which,
I think any new building to people is gonna seem flashy,
Yeah.
regardless of what's done, because it's
You
been
could put up a
that,
$25,000
yes,
metal building, and people will be saying that's too flashy.
Right.
You know, you'll get some guy going, I've got some sheet metal in the back of my yard,
Right.
we can build it and weld it together with rusted
Rivets.
trailers.
Yeah,
and-
yeah.
I mean, I think they're just gonna have to get over that at some point, right? I mean,
Well, that's where you have,
Storage area.
that's where you have to get the ground game going,
Right.
and getting key individuals
It did
pulled in
look
at the right
pretty.
time.
I'll bring this up.
Yeah.
So, for example, in 2003, Rutland built a public safety building,
Yeah.
and they brought it to town meeting, and it got turned down. So they went back to the architect, they cut the scale down, and to save $1 million, they scaled the project down, it passed, it gets built. So what they cut out was, in 2003, Rutland didn't have any full-time firefighters. Well, I have 15 now, 24 hours a day, and we had no provisions for sleeping quarters,
Right.
nothing. And to fix the problem now, we're looking at a $15 million reno to the building to fix the problem for saving $1 million
Yeah.
20 years ago.
right.
And we could have built something back in 2019 when interest rates were 2.5%,
Yep.
when lumber was cheap, when
Yep.
materials were easy to get,
Yep,
and now we're gonna spend more money to
Right.
build something
For less.
at half the size.
correct, yep.
Yeah.
Because this is
Penny wise,
beautiful.
pound foolish.
It is, but I mean, how much of the look actually adds to the cost too?
Correct.
Lots.
Right.
Yes, yep.
I mean, you don't want it to look awful, but it can be reduced to probably something that's pleasing to the eye and not.
Yes, and I would be remiss to not note that I, as town administrator, would appreciate seeing a municipal center. Like,
Yeah.
we don't have a wall.
Yeah,
Right?
yeah,
Like,
yeah.
So that's not the priority, but I agree with many of you, if we're going to do this, we should do this.
So are you saying fire, safety, and town offices?
That's, as town administrator, that's what I would like to see.
I think that would probably be the best way to go.
It makes sense.
Yeah, financially.
And then you could say,
Right.
we give the whole Slade building to the seniors.
To the senior center.
And you can take the offices out of the library, which opens
Yeah.
them up to get grants and things. that they
Ton of
need.
grants,
Right,
yeah.
right.
So it could be beneficial to them and the town to have everything in one location.
And I was speaking with Seth, the chief, from earlier. I don't think we should go after this as one nut, because before we were going after 10 mil, $11 million. If we go first and look for a $750,000 to $1 million set of plans, then you get your buy-in, then you get your shovel-ready status that allows us to go and seek federal grants, allows us to go and seek additional grants from whomever, and I don't know how they went about it, but everything that's really been brought to me thus far was that they went for the whole kit and caboodle.
Oh, yeah, they went for the whole enchilada.
It was almost asking for a blank check
Mhm.
when it
That
wasn't
was
fully
exactly
engineered.
what some people were
Yeah,
saying.
Yep, you know, and there was no site testing, no soil testing.
Right.
Nothing of that level was done on that site, so who knows what you would've got into, you know, if the soils were bad or whatever, and then, you know, construction costs are gonna change, and then now you're going back to the table again asking for more, or you're cutting the project. So, like Nate said, I think the full plan, scope and design, and then basically have build documents ready to go, I think is the win.
Yeah, should be the first
Yep.
hurdle for the committee.
Yep.
You'll get an awful lot of pushback just on that,
Mm-hmm.
because that immediately will bring up all of the, oh my God, here they go again, going after our tax money, they're gonna try and build another public safety building, what do we need it for? It'll start their whole ground game right off the bat. So just be prepared for that. It's very frustrating.
Mm-hmm.
I think this is still a little fresh for some people. Once it's brought up again, I think it's gonna bring back all of that. So it's definitely something that we have to conquer.
Yeah, and I'm hoping that we can do a whole campaign on it. I'm sure, like I said, I am compensated to be optimistic, and
Sure.
I'm sure we've done
Mm.
this before. I'd like to see the tours of the facilities, both in person and virtual, come back. The documentation. I'm not half bad when it comes to a presentation, so I'd like to not everybody's on the internet. Not everybody is social media friendly, so maybe we have to do a mailer at some point too. But there are a lot of people out there that would really kind of take on our cause if it is presented in the right way. And that was a lot of what my idea for bringing this committee together was to have just a group bought in, all with the same charge.
So one of the things I noticed last time around was a price was attached to it. Right, we'll just say $3 million, right? Just for round numbers. Everyone heard only $3 million. They did not hear after that saying, well, if we get it approved, then we can go for federal grants to knock that number down. Didn't even hear it, didn't want to consider it. Nope, the price is $3 million, our taxes are going up X number of dollars per month. They're gonna do a Prop 2.5 override. I mean, it just started the ball rolling. I'm not trying to poo-poo your idea, I'm trying to prep you
Yeah.
for what you're going to hear.
Yeah.
Because honestly, I could record it and play it every single meeting, and it would be the same story, same individuals, same group of individuals that start the undercurrent that just knocks it all down. You want to pull people into the voting, start this project.
So yesterday, my social media is not great, but yesterday somebody posted about the lack of firefighters, maybe it was yesterday, a couple of days ago, the lack of firefighters, the amount, and you're on pace right now to do more than any other year you've ever done, right? Something to that effect.
Okay, I'm completely sorry.
That, I don't know who handles
was
your
on my
social
page?
media. The fire department's site,
Page.
yes, so
Okay.
I'm not sure who handles your social media, but
Jim Airy stuff.
but it was-
but
it was-
yeah, I think he
it was
did have something
very-
about the stats.
Yes, he did.
but
share
it was
stats
good.
yesterday.
It was
Yeah.
good, and I think that those are things that need to continue to happen in more influx. Whether that's just on social media or through other venues, but I think that those things have to start happening more and more frequently, and those stats are good.
For those
I said
wondering
to my
what he's
husband, I go,
talking
that's
about.
kinda scary.
Okay, yeah, so there,
and I almost hate to say it this way, but if you can put the scare in people in that way, maybe it will trigger something a little bit more.
The scare doesn't need to be placed. The scare should be there. Like, between the scare of having a facility and force that's gonna be able to get to your home
Mhm.
and save you, or get to your home and put a fire out, and the fact that these facilities just are not fit. Like, I brought a gentleman from MRPC into the police department. He's working on the master plan, and he literally looked at me and said, "I thought you guys were kidding." And as I showed him the police department, I'm like, "Wow, you wrote the master plan and no one brought you on a tour. Great." And that's really what I believe. We should show people what we're working with. And getting the 5-star reviews on the police and fire department, getting the accolades, and with Jack Squat, both financially and facilities wise.
So if I'm getting 5 stars, why, if we're
I
getting
just
5
thought
stars, why
that-
should we be spending
that-
the money? It's not like we're gonna get 6.
No.
I mean, I don't know, I think as we move along, if those things are started and that way it starts to kind of, and then it looks like the work we're doing is really good work with a good intent and meaningful, then I think it might help a lot. I mean, I know Mike's like, I mean, we've lived in town a long time now, everybody has, but I think he's got some good points, but I think we're all here to be very positive and be very willing to
And
get this.
I'm not trying to
Yeah,
be
no,
negative.
I
I'm
know
not trying to be
Mike,
negative,
but,
I'm trying to
no.
be a realist about
Yes.
what we're going to
Absolutely,
encounter.
absolutely,
And let's
absolutely.
figure out ways to
Right.
deal with that. We should go positive rather than necessarily go with, well, your house is gonna burn down and you're screwed. That's not gonna buy us anything. We should be talking about, obviously, the conditions of our facilities suck and have since I moved into this town, 2005. It's not, those are not gonna get any better unless we do something. But we need to somehow convince people that it's the right thing to do, that it's in their best interest to support this. That yes, it may cost them a few bucks extra a month, but there's a comfort factor in knowing that our police and fire won't be having to worry about the roof falling on their head that's gonna keep them from getting to my house that's on fire.
Literally.
And we're going
Yeah.
to be able to tell them exactly what what that dollar
Police
amount
station,
is for their home
like
value.
guys.
And
Exactly.
the other, the other
It's on
thing is,
video.
what's it going to do to my insurance? What's it
Yep.
going to do to my home values? Of course, then they'll say home values, that means you're gonna increase my taxes, but.
Understood.
I've heard them all.
Yeah.
And maybe there's some stats from some other towns we could get that once they built their stations and built we can get some stats from them to say, okay, once this was built, this is what happened, this is how it worked.
And
Do we know if, when the Rutland facility was built, did that affect insurance prices within the town, or
Or
values?
So there's a lot of ways you can look at this, is what the town contributes into police and fire, just in general,
Mhm.
has a direct impact on your auto car insurance, and has a direct impact on your homeowner's insurance policy. And it's based on an ISO rating. They come in and they rate the town. And you can be on a scale from 1 to 10, 10 being the worst, and
Yep.
you're paying like drunk driving rates at that, and I think Hubbardston now is a 6, so we're not terrible. But if you spend money in facilities, and if the facilities have training capabilities to get your staff fully trained, and you have place that they can meet and conduct those trainings, all that has point values,
Yeah,
and those point values drive that number lower. And each notch you come down, it's, you know, hundreds of dollars per home, per year. So there is cost savings. And, you know, as far as what police can, you know, provide for, you know, police protection, granted that, you know, they're 90% on the road in their
Right.
vehicle, in their offices, in their vehicles. But when it comes to, you know, investigation, report writing, things like that, that's all done in a building.
right.
And, you know, that's where you need that type of stuff, so, yeah, there would be a tangible dollar amount savings.
Yeah, I wouldn't
Down the
expect
line.
it to be a wash
No,
for
No.
a taxpayer,
no,
but anything that we can prove will help offset the cost.
right,
Federal grants,
Right.
state grants, so on and so forth. I mean, one of the things I think we ought to be doing is having a talk with our former senator,
Yep.
now Central Mass rep,
Yep.
and saying, and I chatted with her at Memorial Day. I said, part of her job is to help maintain the feel of towns in central
Mhm.
Massachusetts. Part of that is good public safety,
correct.
or people are just not gonna move here.
Right. And I think it goes to a lot of employee retention. If the employee doesn't feel that they work in a safe environment, they're not gonna stay here.
No,
You know, they may come in the door and get trained, and guess what? They're using it as a stepping stone and walking out the door to the next best thing.
right, which means we then
So-
have to retrain a new person,
Correct.
which
And
is
and
costly.
there's a cost value with that as well.
If you can get the new person,
If we
Correct.
can get the
Yeah,
new
right.
person.
because
Right.
your
Yeah.
facilities aren't what they, you know, like.
Right, because Starbucks is paying as much as a part-timer.
Right.
And to go back to the Rural Affairs Director, former
Yep.
Senator Ann Goby,
Yep.
I've met with her twice already, and on the town's legislative priorities and STAM's legislative priorities, the small town administrators, and the MMA's legislative priorities, and on a priority list of many other organizations is the creation of a public safety and municipal operations building authority, similar to the MSBA that funds schools.
Mhm.
But that has been on the legislative docket on Beacon Hill for a decade.
Right.
And every year it gets a little closer, but didn't make it in time this year.
Right.
So that's something that we can potentially look forward to and advocate for, but I don't know if that's really gonna be driving us. Cause it's something, 10 years ago, we could have said the same thing as we're saying here this evening.
Sure.
Like, there is a
Sure.
piece of legislation.
But at least
filed.
now we have a dedicated person to drive that.
Yep.
You know, and then if the building becomes shovel ready in a federal sense, then you can go after federal dollars.
Mhm.
And, you know, we can, you know, go after, you know, federal earmarks, and we can go after, you know, Homeland Security money. You know, but without that, that's the only way you're gonna get any type of federal dollars is they wanna see that the community's already invested, we're gonna build this whether we get the money or not.
Right.
We are committed, we are moving forward, and they wanna see that. And we see that in road projects all you know, back in the day, we didn't have to pre-engineer anything
Right.
before Mass Highway would come in. Now we are funding all this, you know, upfront money, you know, but we're getting millions of dollars in return, you know, to do Main Street and, you know, do other projects.
Right, and I think that's one of the things we can probably have as a story to explain the point
Yep.
of, you know, probably after Main Street's done and
Yeah.
everyone's going, wow, it
Yeah.
looks really great. And that's when we can say, this costs the town of Hubbardston this much,
Mhm.
this costs the federal government
Correct.
this much, or the state
Yep.
government this much.
Yep.
If we didn't do this, we never would have gotten Main Street done.
Correct.
We can do the same thing with the public safety building, but we have to say we're willing to
Yep.
do it,
Correct.
right? And that would be a very fresh example in people's minds,
Mhm.
because we can all just turn and go, it happened just out there.
Right. Yep, and we've
Right.
been to town meeting over the last 5 years, you know, for
Oh.
25%, a little bit more, and now we're finally getting the project done. So, you know, they've had multiple years of voting money for this project.
Yep.
So-
And one of the things we can say is we're going to try to do the same model as we did for Main Street
Yep,
for the public safety building.
yep.
And I think that, while it's still fresh in a lot of people's mind, will help a little, right? That's gonna help knock down the naysayers.
Right,
Because now we're focused purely on how do we get the funding.
Right.
As opposed to them going off on a tangent of, oh no, you can't have this many bays and that
Right,
many
yeah.
things and that many
Right.
things, and why do we need to have all this stuff code, you know?
right.
If we can get those arguments out of the way and just really focus on the cost
Right,
and use the Main Street example as this is how we're planning to do it, we found great success with this, I think that might be an easier sell.
yep.
Because it's gonna be really hard for the naysayers to argue that.
I'm looking right now to see, because Princeton, our neighbor, just got the approval for shovel-ready building documents. I'm looking on their warrant to see how much that costs. Because I keep telling myself 750,000, but it may have gone up. Missed it. I'll keep looking for that.
Before we started down this road, you had something you wanted to?
Yes,
Yeah,
and,
okay.
and it was covered,
Okay,
Madam Chair,
okay.
so, the one observation I have right off the bat, we have a marketing problem. There are lightning rod issues out there. We need to identify what those are and not put the cart before the horse. Giving numbers, any number is going to be met with,
Yeah.
yes, a certain
Yeah.
initial reaction. There are things that, the basic options, a new building complex, existing facility, or do nothing status quo. We have to consider all of those, and, I might be leaning in one direction or another, but I believe we're tasked with finding out what the informed public wants. So, there are always gonna be naysayers, accept that. How many of them are they? I mean, are they just loud? And do they have a background? Or does it represent the constituents, our town? Really, is that what we're seeing? So I think our job is to find out what the informed public wants, and that may be a challenge.
There are past surveys.
Okay,
And there was one not too long ago, and I actually think Ryan added it because they used to ask, do you want a public safety building? And people will say, yes, they do. So I always tell them, like, yeah, but how many want their taxes to go up or willing to? And then last survey, he did a range, I think.
Okay.
Where do you think there needs to be a new public safety building? And then would you be willing to have your taxes raised? And I think there was like 4 different, like, how far were you willing to go? So that information is there. I don't know how many people replied back to the survey, but it was a few years ago, I want to say.
okay.
Or
'Cause
maybe it
I
was
missed that.
maybe 2018 or 19.
Okay.
Do you have a rate of return on surveys and generally?
Low.
Yeah,
Very low.
yeah,
Single digits probably.
yeah.
Here's my experience with surveys. You get the people on both ends of the spectrum, which isn't representative of the whole.
Right,
Right.
right.
You get those that are really for something or really against it, which is still valuable information. But is that really, I'm willing to beat the bushes a little bit and ask some people, sit down, you know, at the club over a beer and say, hey, you know, we have to really talk reality here.
Mhm.
Set your ego and emotions aside and give me some good feedback. We need to find those kind of people
Mhm.
to get some input, because no matter what direction we go, we're gonna have to have some people standing behind us, you know. We can't be, we're the microphone,
Right,
we're,
right.
we're the voice pieces, but we have to have some support behind us, regardless of the direction. One of the things in preparing for the meeting, I looked at the committee's charter, and I was, not confused, but, would want clarification on what the scope is. We say public safety building. To me, that means fire, police, emergency manager, and then it's, but I think the scope could be clarified and say, hey, we don't have a quote-unquote town hall.
No.
We occupy other facilities, the library, that under its charter or deed or whatever the legal mechanism is, we are losing opportunities for money. With our fire station, we just had to, at an increased cost of X amount, had to modify a new vehicle, right? Was that in the couple $100,000 range?
No, that's something that's gotten, like, we have to design it to fit in because we only have 10-foot doors.
Right.
It's actually a little less than that. So there is a cost to that. So like when Nate, one of the meetings, said we can go out and find used vehicles, you can, but a lot of them don't take in to account they're over 10 feet. Because
Right.
they won't fit in that station. You gotta be below 9
So-
something. So there is a cost associated, but you're not going to, I don't want people to think, well, hey, the truck that we just bid, it's 800,000. We can shave 300,000 off of it.
No,
if
no,
we
no,
had a
no,
new
no.
station, so,
That's some,
yeah.
I believe, and correct me if I'm wrong, that this is some cost. We're getting a vehicle. Or is it
getting-
under
We're
contract?
getting an ambulance.
Oh, oh.
Yeah, there's no fire truck on order.
No fire truck. Okay, all right.
In
Which is not
terms
what
of
you
capital
guys-
planning,
So wasn't there ARPA funding approved for
there was
a?
ARPA funding approved for an ambulance.
That's it.
Yeah.
Because initially, it was a new fire truck.
I can't
Wasn't
speak
it?
It was in the talks.
You came to one of the ARPA
Yes,
meetings.
yeah, I requested with Ryan to have a money appropriated for a new engine and an ambulance, and I got the 250,000 for the ambulance.
Okay, so belay my last,
Yeah.
what was talked about did not occur. Okay, thank you.
And
But
just-
if we had purchased the vehicle that you submitted for, how much was its cost gonna be increased because our facility wouldn't accommodate a normal off-the-shelf fire truck?
Chief,
The problem.
he's a sales rep
Yeah.
also for
Oh.
Bulldog Fire Apparatus.
So
Okay.
in my side job, the big issue when it comes to building a vehicle from, the ground up is in order to fit a certain size building, like the chief said, a 9'8" opening, is in order to get the height under that, you basically are stretching the length of the vehicle. Because if you're gonna carry so much water and so much equipment, you've gotta keep the height down, so all you're doing is basically, 1,000 gallons of water fits in a certain rectangle in order to get
Yeah.
that height, you're
Okay.
stretching it out. So there's a true cost associated with that, and it's usually, for ours, I can go back probably to 1996 when we bought the real truck, that it's almost a 10% increase per vehicle, when you get into that. And then, like the chief said, you're completely out of the used vehicle market
Right.
because of that. And right now, fire apparatus for an engine, $800 million is not out of the question.
Okay.
And if you order it today,
Right.
you're not gonna see it for 2 to 3 years.
Yep.
So that's how bad it's getting.
When was the last time we got a new fire truck?
2017.
I helped John Bennett find a used one for $400,000.
That's right. Yeah.
Okay, well, I don't wanna belabor that point, it's just that, when we come up with some sort of marketing plan, you know, of cost avoidance
Right.
is an issue.
Yep.
Mhm.
Yep.
So I did find that number. In our neighboring community, the cost of final design and construction bid documents for a public safety building was $517,149.87. So a little over $500,000. And that was, don't quote me on this, I'll have to check, for an $11 to $12 million building.
That's in the ballpark,
Mm.
definitely,
Yeah.
that makes sense.
Are we ready to move on, or do we, anybody else
I have all
have
kinds
anything
of-
that,
Comments? Okay.
floor is yours.
Well, thank you, Madam Chair. The issue of aesthetics came up, and I'll give you some of my personal background on that. You know, I'm an engineer, civil engineer. If I built everything, it would be a box, and it'd be very plain. So check me on that in the future, okay? I don't believe that we need to be that extreme. However, we need to consider that, and I will consider the building that was shown here goes in the other direction. I would definitely not support that level of aesthetics. Have a nice facade, yes, but it can be a Butler building in the back.
Correct.
I mean, what we're doing is building, and I won't speak for the police, but for the fire station, a good portion of that is
Apparatus.
a garage.
Garage.
A garage. Let's not overstate it. Now, they have some special requirements for their garage, but we don't need to have a big fancy facade for what is the majority of the building. So, once again, check me on that, because I might
And
lean.
prefabs come a long way.
Yes.
And I did check one out last year, and I think that would be a beneficial field trip for the committee to take at some point, to go and see what one or two other public safety buildings have done, and implementing prefab portions with facade that meets the natural character and aesthetic of the community,
Right.
because you do get those people as well on.
Mhm.
Yeah. I think the town of Ware is probably the most recent building that the building in the apparatus bay is a steel building.
Yeah.
And the office space is just a traditional masonry front and
Yeah.
wood construction, nothing crazy.
Ashby didn't have any prefab box
I think
built
they-
into it?
Yeah, it might have, but that was add on to the existing,
Oh, really?
yeah.
what about the one in Barry, do we know what that?
So they already have problems with that.
Okay.
They've, from what I've heard, outgrown it already.
Wow.
And that's probably something good to bring up too, as we're moving forward.
And I think Ashburnham is probably the other building that is pretty much a steel construction
Yes.
building.
And that,
Yeah.
and that
With
is a
office
pretty
space.
building. I
It
don't know
is.
who
Yep.
who's driven by that,
I
but it's
have.
not a bad
Ashburnham,
looking
huh?
building
Yeah.
either.
It's-
I'll make it on my next
It's
errand.
perfectly functional,
It absolutely is.
you
And
know,
correct
and
me if I'm
will last a
wrong.
long time.
Yep.
You know, modern steel buildings have come a long way.
It's probably easier to redo something with steel than it is to redo
Our
something with.
DPW was built in 1980,
Yeah.
and we're just putting the first roof on it.
In Gardner, they built a DPW last year. It
Yep.
is just a box.
Yep.
And it's lovely on the inside. When you're inside, you wouldn't know you were in a
Yep.
steel box. And
Yep.
they didn't go above and beyond to add frill to it,
Right.
because it's a DPW building. But it's out there. You know, I'd be much more keen on having the fancy washers and decontamination equipment that is necessary to have a proper fire department versus
Brick and
versus
mortar.
putting a chair on the front of our police department.
Or a backhoe.
Yeah.
You can always paint on a backhoe.
Because I think I heard a lot of comments regarding marketing this. You know, I don't think, we need to inform versus sell, because if it's perceived that we have an agenda, I think we're in
Sure.
the hole. And so part of the quote-unquote marketing plan, we might call it an informational plan.
Yep.
Once again, lightning rod terms mean a lot when it comes to our emotions. But part of that needs to be funding sources and uses. And I heard some things about grants and federal grants. I think that's important to, once again, we don't have to attach numbers initially, that can be fleshed out later, but it needs to be one of the items that's addressed.
You get that. And if we're talking about items that need to be addressed, I do think it will be imperative for this committee to kind of have a, I'm not gonna be professional in saying it's like a kumbaya, come to Jesus moment with the town, like have a 1 or 2 sessions where we say, all right, come and tell us what you want, what you didn't like about the past, what went wrong, we're moving forward, we're all on this train together.
A public hearing.
Yes.
Is that,
Yes,
okay.
yep.
Like
Concur.
in relative short
Right.
order.
Yeah.
Like I've already received 2 calls from different people, take it they are some of the louder people in this community that are interested in coming to a meeting to present their feelings and understandings to you guys.
I think we should also go to some places, like go to the Lions Club and
Correct.
do the presentation
Yep.
there,
Ooh.
right?
Yeah.
Go
Like
to
kind
the
of a
se-
test.
Go to the senior center.
Yeah, small group.
Go to the
Yeah.
senior center and explain to them
Yep.
what's going on and answer questions.
And we also can record all of these, well, at least the one at
Correct.
the senior center. I wouldn't bring a, probably wouldn't bring a camera to the Lions Club meeting, but
Yeah,
Well, they can always come here.
yeah. Does anyone have a background in marketing?
Yes.
yes.
I knew you would. Like,
Yay!
Yes.
so that's going to be
So I'm on,
important
my
and
wheels are
influential.
already going, but people love a story these days, right?
Mhm.
We're on TikTok for 10 minutes watching people's story. I think we should do a story. I think we should do a documentary story that starts from whatever you have way back when, and just so people realize how long this has been going on. Because it's one of the things I wrote in my, when I wanted to be, I said, since I moved here in 1998, this has been a thing. And it's probably been even before that, but I think it'd be really kind of cool and a good way to present, like, just the whole thing. And so, cause I think what's happened is people may not, I mean, I honestly don't go to every town meeting, but people don't go, they hear things, they hear say, people talk, they misunderstand, so, we go through and we say, okay, well, here's what happened in 2019, here's what happened, and people misunderstood the way the project was supposed to go, or the money that we were gonna get, or however and then we incorporate, here's the road to Rutland, here's the road to Barry, look at Barry built a facility, 5 years? Has it been longer than that?
more than that.
Yeah, I think so, right?
But-
And they're already outgrowing it, we don't wanna have to,
Yeah,
I mean,
not
I'm
much
just thinking,
longer
like,
than
I think
5,
people
yeah.
would maybe appreciate something along that lines to get started maybe, and so they know that now there's a committee formed, we're a group of people who are wanting to move this forward.
And a strength in this town is our cable access. So
Mm.
Brittany and her staff are completely willing to videotape us. Like, I make her videotape me once a month where I introduce her to people like the chief. And I call it Hubbardston Headlines. And
Yes,
if she's
okay.
willing to give me a show, she'll riveting show. It's a riveting show.
My episode was really
Yeah.
good. Encourage everybody to watch.
Coffee one was nice.
I had to get up and make popcorn.
Yeah.
Pretty upset.
I love your wit, you gotta have the comedian. Good wit going on.
No, so we'll definitely be able to do that if you want to, and you as well, in your kind of put a marketing mind to it over the next couple weeks between now and whenever the chair schedules the next meeting. Think about it in that capacity. From at least where I'm sitting, I don't think we're going to solve much this evening in terms
Right.
of where we're going, or, so
Right,
this is
right.
more of an open conversation to get the juices flowing, and then next time we can sit down and say, okay, now what? Because walking into this, no one knew what to expect. I was scared that everyone was gonna look at me and say like, all right, tell us about the past. I don't know the past, I've been here 9 months.
Has it been that long?
Yeah, I could've had a baby.
So I guess when we're talking about establishing a timeline and milestones, I mean, are we all kind of on the same page where we really need to probably start pushing some type of formats for marketing and, having public talking to the public and just to get things starting to roll?
Yeah. I do think that our first goal should be just the plans. Like, we maybe don't get our hopes up that, 2 years from now, we're gonna be breaking ground. If 2 years from now, we have a set of documents that make this project into a shovel-ready project, that's a win. So I think we just have to kind of take a step back from, this is a building that is going to be here soon, to this is an idea that we want to happen and needs to happen.
It's like a 5-year plan.
Yeah, yeah.
But what were you looking for? Because I thought that was a good idea, but I wasn't sure if you were looking for full amount or the plans for the presidential ballot.
Yeah.
In 2024.
So that
Because
would
that would
be-
get the most people out.
Yeah.
Right.
You
So
can actually
what I was
see.
talking to the chief about is whether it be the vote on this or the vote on an override, I would like to see us focus on getting it on larger ballots, because then we actually get a larger poll of the community.
Yeah.
And it's not just the 110 people that came to vote at the uncontested
Right.
selectmen's race. So I think there's a upcoming, it's way too soon, I may try to talk overrides for it, but there's an upcoming special state senate election in November, and then multiple presidential elections coming up. So we may wanna look into the ability to get something like that on one of those elections, cause you get a better taste. If it gets shot down overwhelmingly when 60% of the voters voted, then
We're done.
Then we're done.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly.
But
Yeah.
when 9% of the voters voted and it got shut down, that may not be a huge loss.
So we have some money to start the process of getting plans done, right? Have we gone through the exercise of our requirements to feed into those plans?
No.
Okay, is that gonna be part of this, or is that something separate?
We can determine what is part of this. The only thing.
And I say that only because we're now incorporating town offices in addition to fire and police.
We're not
Yeah, we
there
were-
yet.
yeah, right.
But we need to define that.
Yes. Yeah.
See, I think it's a phase thing.
It's a kind of an idea that's
Mhm.
Yeah.
more of an idea that's on the table than a.
Like, this is
what
a
we're
public
doing.
safety building committee. Like, do most of us seem to agree that that would be a good thing? Yes, but first and foremost, until some other time when it is identified, this is a public safety building committee.
And would you agree that that's fire, safety, emergency management? Is there, emergency management, disaster prep, so all that environmental spill thing, all of that is part of that?
I'd say
Of
the
course.
tax collector is part of the public safety of this municipality. If she doesn't collect the money,
Yeah.
then we don't put the gas in the
I'm
fire
just,
truck.
I just wanna make
And-
sure that we kind of have within our
Mhm.
group, a good definition
Yep.
of what that means.
Yeah,
Because-
that's kind of where I was going, is
Okay.
we need to define what this building is, And if, in
Or
order to do that,
complex.
we need to figure out what's going in there,
Right.
right? And then the requirements of those that are going in there.
Mhm.
There may be different requirements. If we decide that some number of town personnel are going to be stationed in this building, then what do they need? Do they need office space? Do they need, you know, something like this layout, or do they need, I mean, whatever?
A select board meeting area and a meeting area in general and a training facility for police and fire sure look similar.
I
So-
can't concur more.
Like, so,
From
and
my
that's what-
background.
And that's
And,
what
and
I've
on,
seen.
and on,
Leverage.
this is almost going towards a community type of thing, but having enough space for multiple training rooms could be utilized by things like in the evenings by Boy Scouts,
Whomever.
so on and so forth.
Please remember that we're going to have this wonderful facility wide open at some point, so.
Yeah.
Yes,
So that's also something that I've spoken with the senior center director about
you're not getting the whole thing.
Yeah, about
Yeah.
potentially having it's a senior center, but it's also a community center where Boy and Girl Scouts can meet, or anybody who
Yeah.
wants to meet, AA wants to meet, or sure.
Right.
Like,
Another
A place to
point,
do inoculations during the next pandemic.
yeah,
another point for either the quote-unquote information plan, and it was just touched upon, and this happens every time you build new facilities and vacate old, is the disposition of the excess or vacated facilities. So, once again, I mentioned for the options, you know, we talked about new building, we talked about existing facility or complex, or the do-nothing status. Well, the same goes on the back end for the spaces that are vacated. You can do nothing, you can demolish them, or you can re-inhabit them. And there has to be a plan, you know, and a transition plan. And I would caution against having temporary facilities, which some told me maybe this was.
Yes.
Okay, well,
Still
then I
is.
gleaned, right? There's an old saying, nothing is as permanent as a temporary building. So we don't wanna
Or
be caught
taxes.
in that trap, yet you want to reutilize facilities that you truly can justify a need for. And you may not have all the space you need, but you may get most of it, you know, most of your needs, hard needs accommodated,
Oh,
not
absolutely.
wished for. And otherwise, turn off the lights, keep people out, and have a demolition plan.
and I do think kind of, I don't know if this aligns perfectly with what you're saying, finishing this gets us an ally over there that will say they're gonna utilize this building. So,
That's good, cause I can't support that if
That's
we're
done.
yeah, okay.
that's an RFP going out, and I put a deadline of Halloween on that project, so it's in our hopes that it will be done by then.
Well, now that the TA has brought that up, Madam Chair, there's one more item, and this is getting down in the future a little bit, but I'll bring it up now so that you all have heard it, is our procurement strategy, IFB or RFP. For your design consulting, RFP is request for proposal, IFB, usually for construction, is invitation for bid. Many more enlightened procurement agencies for construction are not going with the old IFB. So you can get RFP, so that's what you're saying we're gonna do for the construction for that?
Yeah.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Leave it open to that
Yeah.
for, okay.
And that's, I've only had my MCPPO for less than a year, so I do tend to gravitate to the newer
Good.
ideals and the ways of doing things, and the new Inspector General is also pushing that kind of processes, so. But at the end of the day, we would probably only have to do the procurement for the plans and then for the project manager. And then they would handle all of that after. What do you call that role? Owner's project manager, an OPM. We'd have to find an OPM, and that would be good.
And you would define the services for that position as what?
The owner's project manager would be the general contractor, the person who would oversee the kind of nuts and bolts and.
There's a term I was gonna bring up, you got it.
Yeah.
Clerk of the works, okay.
But
Oh, we don't have any young people in, well, the chief.
We are a long ways away from having to procure anything.
Right.
For.
Right. But it's good to start to throw these terms out there, because that's a major requirement. I mean, it's gonna drive, all of a sudden, that phase, if we get to that phase, that is a huge effort and
Mhm.
where you can lose a lot of time and money if you don't have the right person or consultant managing that. And then the last item for me tonight, and then I will shut up, and this is why I wouldn't want me as the chair, because I'm looking forward, but the environmental conditions like solar, ground source heat pumps, somewhere in the informational plan, or were we gonna consider those things? Because that can help sell something with a certain group of people that we may have here in Hubbardston, we may not, I don't know.
Well, we sell it as lowering a hedge against long-term energy costs.
That's why I brought it up.
That's why I'm putting solar in my house.
Okay. Just as long
When I
as.
retire, I want no electricity bills.
So the town of Holden, and Paxton, both of their public safety buildings went with geothermal heat pumps, the whole bit,
Yeah.
in-floor heating. It has been a nightmare.
Yeah.
A very costly one for them. In whether, Holden's now going on almost 10 years, whether it was early generation
Mhm.
of
Yeah, that was
of
very
equipment,
early.
Design,
design.
construction,
Um,
what
But I think we just need to.
misuse.
Yeah, I think, Holden went to the point where they put underground heating for their driveway, so the snow would melt. Because they thought this was going to be a huge energy saver and all this. It has been
Takes a lot of energy to do that.
I was gonna say, that's
Yes.
not Hubbardston.
Yeah,
I'll
so,
say that right now.
To come out and say we're gonna build a green building is, I think we need to be cautious on.
Well, we
that.
don't say, once again, lightning rod
Yeah.
issues and terms, we don't say a green building, we're gonna say,
An
a-
efficient
An
building.
efficient,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
that goes not only for the utilities,
Yep.
but the type of building materials.
Correct.
A garage versus Taj Mahal.
Correct.
Right.
So those
Yep.
are the issues we're going to have to
Why can't we
address.
build a garage mahal? Like, meet it right in the middle and have it be nice, but
Back to his terms, you don't use the mahal
Right.
anywhere in any of these. I would like a garage mahal at home.
Yeah.
But, yeah, I think there's a lot we can do around efficiency. Maybe not do the heat pumps, but certainly put the floor in such a way that it's already pre-plumbed.
Yep.
Should we decide to do that in the future? I mean, there's any number of methods we could do to ensure that when we make a future decision, we're not having to do a rip and replace.
and we are a green community designee, so we will be able to work with them on what efficiency means and ensuring that it is truly efficient versus what we're using now.
Yes.
So I'm meeting with them I'm meeting with them tomorrow to go over some energy audits for other buildings. So those vendors and the state parties that connect municipalities with said vendors will be there to assist us with energy efficiency all along the
Yeah,
way.
and that goes back to our tours of other facilities, right? If we go to a facility that's having problems, well, we know we're not gonna do it that way. But if we go to a facility where they did it successfully,
Right.
then that's an opportunity for us to learn.
So I guess that's something, Madam Chair, if you don't mind me speaking out of turn, outside of everyone thinking with their marketing hats on, take a look and see if you can find 2 or 3 facilities within, we can't go to New York, but if there's within a half hour of here, let's go check them out. Take a look at a couple of those.
Can we recap real quick? We talked about getting some new plans together.
Can we get all the old documents?
Yeah.
Like you said, on a shared drive?
Yes.
That
Yeah.
we can see where we've been?
I'll create the shared drive tomorrow and dump what I have.
Okay.
And then everyone else can dump what they have, and we'll all be able to take a look and see what it means.
I have a question regarding the plans now. Is there a way to take what you've got already and revise them to what we've talked about for the exterior of the building? Like, or do we need to have a all new?
Well, I'm not sure, cause I don't know, like, when we were doing this, we were by no means building the Taj Mahal.
Yes, no, and.
But, and, you know, it's a lot of shared space and all that, but at the same time, like, we're talking about, my goal is to have the fire department under one roof. So I don't care if it's steel building or brick and mortar, whatever. But just, my question would be like financing versus the life of the building. You know, how long is a steel building good for? That would be just my question. But so when we were building this, that wasn't the intent to have this Taj Mahal, but not Mike, excuse me.
Mike,
Yeah, Mike.
You are like, oh, we got two
Yeah,
mics,
two
okay.
mics, yeah.
Okay, two mics. You know, said,
I'll
oh,
leave.
if he was building it, he would not build it like that. Like, it's too fancy. So I never got that impression when we were on that committee. So,
And I'm sure if we reached out to, I don't know who made these, but I'm sure if we reached out to them, we could update it with, yeah, it's all there.
It was there a cover sheet?
By Helm Carl Architects,
Out of, I would say where they're,
Groton.
right.
And I'm sure if we reached out to them with, that's
Is that
still a
staff
few
up
steps
by,
away, but
Morton
if we
Brick?
reached out to them
What's
and
that?
said, all right,
Morton
we like
Steel
A, B, and C,
I don't know, there's a
could
bunch
you
of others.
take
Yeah.
away this, add this, we could get
'Cause
that
that's how long
drawing
this
for,
has to last.
for fairly
Yeah.
cheap
Yeah.
in order to.
I'm just asking, do we
plus.
have to reinvent
So-
everything here? We can,
No.
we can certainly use what we've got
Yeah, 'cause the
going
question I
as
have
long
for
as
the
it
two
still
chiefs
meets.
is, are you comfortable being that close together?
No.
no, well, it was me and Perrin. And me and Perrin were, I'd actually be more, I'd feel better, closer to Chief Kuchar than Dennis Perrin if you're watching.
I mean,
He's not.
I don't think that this entire plan would even work, to be honest.
Yeah, there
I
was-
think we'd have to rework a lot of things.
Yeah, there was things that I left it with him, like, and I don't know if it's on this plan, like, there was,
All different.
locker rooms.
Right, there's
Right,
probably.
And we were sharing them with the police, and
Yeah.
I'm like, Chief, you know, these guys have guns, somebody
Yep.
leaves a locker, you want, one of my guys go, like,
Yep.
there was things in there,
Those are
and then
good
we
points.
left them,
Right.
understanding that, yeah, if we went forward, there'd have to be some changes. Yeah, like, having offices side by side.
Doesn't work.
Yeah, cause your door, you got somebody talking,
Yeah.
is
I
certain
live it every
things.
day, so
Yeah.
when they cut back our building, my chief's office is in the police station, and the detective's office is right next to my office. and I hear stuff I shouldn't be hearing.
Mhm.
You know, and
Mhm.
people coming in for interviews and stuff like that, you know, it's just, it's
That's a
not.
layout
Mention,
issue.
Yes,
yeah.
correct.
Not
But-
to mention
but-
gory
Do
information,
Exactly.
things like that.
You put the bays in the middle and
Yep, yep.
fire,
Yeah, and
fire
training in the
is on
training-
either side,
training-
s-
yes.
training in the
Yeah.
center.
Yeah.
I mean, I think there was one
Look at us
one
thinking
discussion
about
about
tenants.
like having the chief's office right down on the apparatus bay floor.
Yeah.
But then you'd have a space upstairs, like if you were to do that, cause it was 2 levels.
Oh, right, yeah.
The
Yeah.
public's coming in on that
Yes,
first level
right,
and
yeah.
you're gonna meet them up
Yeah,
there,
yeah,
you know, so you
yeah.
do something like that.
You know,
Yep.
this goes back to my point of, I don't, while these plans are all nice and everything, having gone through the process already, I think we do have to sit down, someone has
Yeah.
to sit down and come up with your needs.
Well, there's already, this
You
firm
know?
already did it in 2012
Yeah.
for the town.
But you,
And then I think there's an updated version of this in 2018 or 19, so.
But you're gonna have to come up with your needs and requirements and feed that into whatever the next plan is.
But
And,
that's, they sat down with us, that's why it's like, I've been through this, and they sit down, and this is, hey, this is our space, and we need a little bit bigger, we need, storage for records and all that, so that is addressed, and we've sat down with multiple firms.
yeah.
and
So you
done
feel
that,
this,
so.
this would meet your needs, even though it's been
Well,
a couple of years?
It was just basically a space needs analysis, that's 2012, this one's
Yeah.
2015. And this is just an extension of that in more
Okay.
detail.
Okay,
You know, so,
But I think if somebody comes in and is like, yeah, we'd sit down again and go over it again, and they would reassess it, and oh, is it the same, or do you need more, but it's not like starting from scratch.
No.
Yeah.
yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah. Is the master plan done? Been updated?
The master plan is almost done.
Okay.
Yeah, cause when I first got here, I kind of put my foot down with the MRPC stating that it has taken them long enough where the minute we're done this, we're gonna have to start planning
Right.
our next master plan.
Yeah.
So we updated a few things and I was anticipating a final document last week. I did not get that. I'm going to pretend that it's because it was the 4th of July and hope for one next week. So is it done? Yeah.
Cause I think that's gonna show a lot of forecasting of where the town's gonna be in 10, 20 years from now. You know, where our current zoning is.
It'll
everything,
show a
so-
lot of forecasting on where
Yeah.
the town will be 10, 20 years from 2017.
Right.
Like, so.
Yeah.
and we're still looking at the land over across from the pallet.
Looking at everything.
Well, so let's say we don't get that land, or we don't
We already
use that
own it.
land.
Yeah, we already have
own
it.
it.
The town owns it.
Right, so let's say we don't use that land, I guess my terms were, or something comes up and it's not feasible to put it there. We probably should have some backups as well.
I don't think
At some
that-
point,
I don't know, it was probably already figured out that it was feasible to put it there, and that's why, and there's a lot of work done to that site already.
Yeah,
Oh, yeah.
okay,
That you wouldn't wanna have to recreate somewhere else.
Yeah, it's
Right,
already
okay.
been, it's already
So
been
it's-
perked, it's already been,
There's a well back there.
Well
Yeah.
back there, yeah.
There's a lot of work done to that site that I think, yes, that is where we are.
so I guess that's my question,
Right.
that
I
is
don't think- I
what
don't
we
think
are
that's a hill
looking
we
at
wanna
with
try and
this,
die on.
right.
Right.
No, I wanted to have a good overview of everything that we are, and that is what our intent is to use that area.
And if we look at it that way, it's one less thing we have to try to.
Yes, yeah,
to sell.
yeah.
Sell or come up with, so.
A public safety building next to a giant cell tower is not gonna look that bad. It'll kinda look cool.
Oh, it's a public safety radio tower.
Mhm,
Correct,
mhm.
So
and that's
That's
why it
right.
was
It's-
built on
That's
that
why it was
site.
built.
That's right.
Right?
Yeah.
Matches perfectly.
Yeah, so that's one of the corners of the building is right in that area.
Does anyone else have any?
I do think we should review what expectations are between now and the next meeting,
Yeah.
which I think you should set. But that's just my belief, Madam Chair, it's your meeting.
I definitely think we need to go and look at some of these sites, is probably a good first, first step. So if we can manage to do that between now and the next meeting, I think it would help us pull a lot of this stuff together. So are we headed for monthly?
Yeah, what's the cadence?
Yeah. I think sooner is better than later initially, if people's schedules can support it.
Especially if we're talking about having some of this stuff done by some of these elections that are coming up, I
Right.
think it's important to.
If we're gonna get feedback out there and make some site visits. One of the things that I was gonna suggest to Nate when he was trying to schedule this first meeting, and I know we've done it on other committees, is to, try to piggyback on another meeting. Like, for example, on Monday evenings, and this is just for instance, Nate's already there and Heather's already there. So that, and her schedule is, predicated on Paxton's schedule. So that kind of solves like two people. So, I kind of in support of that also because I attend a lot of the select board meetings. So now 3 of us are already there. However, that doesn't mean that the rest of you, Monday night might be the night that, you've got other commitments. But it's just as a suggestion, I'm not saying Monday night's the night, but that's an example of one. There's other meetings on other nights that some of the people attend.
Yeah, your meeting starts at 6:30. 6:30.
So there's some advantages if you set it a half an hour or 45 minutes or an hour before the select board meeting, you're automatically gotta be done.
Right.
So we
Stay on
can
topic. and get-
control-
Yes,
Yeah,
absolutely,
exactly.
right,
Yeah.
right.
So there's some
right.
other advantages to that, to piggybacking on another existing meeting. As a thought.
Thoughts, discussion, anyone?
Mondays are better than Thursdays.
Yep.
Okay,
Okay.
okay.
Thursday's not a
For me,
meeting
this
night
is
for
like
me, so.
the one Thursday out of the whole year I could probably make it, so it
Okay.
worked out.
This is awesome.
Yeah.
So, we've got Thursday, Friday, Saturday, and Sunday are out.
Yeah.
We're 50%, over 50% of the way there,
No.
right?
I can't do Wednesday. It's my golf league.
Well, there's Wednesdays are out, we're down to Mondays and Tuesdays.
Yes.
Tuesdays.
Depends on my calendar.
There's too many meetings on Monday nights.
Oh, yeah, that's the disadvantage of it.
Yep.
And I'm already here Mondays and Tuesday nights anyway.
Why'd you have to do that?
Fine Mondays.
It's going so well.
But,
We meet during the day.
but what are the other?
Yeah, 1 o'clock,
Monday
yeah,
night
let's
works,
figure
right?
that out,
Or
yeah.
non-select board Mondays. I love
Yeah.
a good Monday meeting. Like that's the one night of the week that I have blocked off on
Right.
my family calendar saying, "Don't ask."
Yeah.
But that opposite Monday, isn't that Paxton's select board meeting?
Yes.
Oh, it is?
Yeah.
Yeah,
That's why Heather can
That's
be
why
here.
we do it. No, Heather couldn't be here right now.
No, but that's
Oh,
why.
for that, yeah.
That's why.
Yeah.
So,
5 o'clock on select board.
Yeah.
Tuesdays are easier for me.
Because then you do your training the last Monday of every month.
Yeah, but if we're meeting at 5, then that doesn't
Yeah.
interfere with that, we're done. My stuff's 6 and 6:30, so that would still be
5
fine.
seems too early.
Yeah.
And that's a long meeting if I think, schedule it for an
5:30,
hour,
5:30,
45
6,
minutes,
yeah,
you know?
5:30, 6:30.
And then stay on task,
Mhm.
stay on top of it.
Absolutely, yep.
Yeah, we definitely don't want to beat a dead horse
No.
every
Right.
2 weeks.
No.
You just get annoyed.
Yeah, yep.
No, and 2 weeks seems too often, at least initially.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Maybe,
yeah.
but.
Well, field
but-
trips on the off
Off-time, yes,
off weeks,
yeah.
Yeah.
you know, to other locations or something.
Yeah. Now, is it necessary, do all of us have to go? Could 3 of us go if we all can't? So some can go and some can go to a different, so it's not like we all have to
Yeah.
be together to,
Yeah.
so that helps a little bit too.
I mean, these are the two that are gonna have to live in the building.
Right,
You know,
right.
So they're important, it's really
Right.
more important.
Can't be much worse than what we're living now,
True.
so.
Realistically, yeah,
Yeah. That's right,
yeah.
So do we wanna set a date for our next meeting?
I'm looking at Monday the 24th or Tuesday the 25th, 3 weeks out.
I can do either.
And please add to this, but what I have down for things that we kind of like action items that are needed between now and the next meeting are members look for facilities to potentially visit, members with marketing experience think about ways that we head towards the creation of a marketing plan, sort of just an action plan towards what we believe we should do. It doesn't need to be a roadmap, but just generalized idea of what we should and should not do over the course of time. TA creates a Google Drive and chiefs place documents in for committee review. Chiefs contemplate additions to previous need studies. Is anything missing? Does post change this?
Right now, no.
That's what I asked. Is there anything else that anyone can think of as an action item between now and whenever our next meeting is?
You ticked off a few of mine.
Yeah, I think if we're gonna keep the meeting short and sweet each week, we have to just stick to 3 or
yeah.
items, otherwise I think it'll get too, so.
I gave myself an action item, and that was to get Carrie, items for a informational plan.
Yeah.
Just topics,
Yeah.
just to say, no, too soon, or phase 1 of the informational plan, phase 2, we can bring in some of these other things. So, I gave myself, I always love tasking myself.
Yeah,
you know.
sure.
You're pretty certain it'll get done, you know?
24 or 25 works for me.
I can do either one
I
of those
can
as
do
well.
either too.
24.
Let's do the
That's the
24th.
Monday.
Let's do the Monday, yep, I'm good with that.
24th?
And we said.
And there are
Is that an off select board
No,
week?
that's their
No,
night.
that is, okay, so that's good, so we
Well,
actually
are they meeting?
leverage.
That's the thing, I don't know. Oh, the select board here?
Yeah.
No,
Oh, yeah.
no, but,
Is there, so, well, one meeting a month if that,
yeah, it's
right
one
now?
meeting a month right now.
Yeah,
At 6 p.m.?
summertime.
6 p.m.? Is that the,
I
what,
think we
5:30,
were-
well,
but
if
yeah,
the board's not meeting now. just
Oh,
what-
yeah.
what time do we
Right.
wanna meet?
I prefer 6 or after, but not lots after.
Right,
Any
right.
time between 6 and 7 is a start.
6 is fine by me.
6 is good.
Perfect.
Perfect.
This is a great group.
We're accommodating.
Meetings are typically the second and fourth meeting of the month at 7 p.m., so that's Paxton.
Yeah,
So there's a good chance that Heather won't make the second meeting. Cross that bridge when we get to it.
yeah.
All right, so we have our next meeting date.
Perfect.
Motion to adjourn?
Second.
We are
That was
adjourned.
fast.
Well,